Hi, everybody out there in Zoom world. My name is Steve McCarthy. I'm with Pacific Employers. Today, I have four extremely important people with me today. I have Candace Weaver with Pacific Employers. I have Tiffany Harris with Pacific Employers. I have James Boretti with Boretti Safety, and Mike Burrows, I believe, was
Boretti Safety as well.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, good. Just making sure he's on the right team. So today we're just going to be doing a brief discussion. While I am not the governor, nor do I have a crystal ball, we are looking like we're starting to move forward into migrating back into the real world. And what does that look like from an HR and a safety standpoint? So I'm going to go ahead and open this up and go with HR. Who let the dogs out? Not sure. Probably Mike.
Hey,
So
Joe.
We'll
No.
we'll go ahead and start with Candace.
No.
What should companies be looking forward to as far as them transitioning back into real world?
Well, it's not going to be easy. So one of the biggest frustrations that employers are experiencing now is the fact that the stimulus packages have created the unemployment benefits to be so lucrative that employees have no incentive to come back to work. And they're actually refusing to do so.
Now, what position does an employer have to actually entice them, or is the state doing anything to entice, or are we kind of at a standstill as far as this goes? Okay,
so what my recommendation would be, if you give, and this is historically true, if you give an employee an offer of employment and they are currently collecting unemployment insurance benefits and they refuse that offer of employment, if you notify the EDD within 10 days of that offer, then they should be disqualified from benefits moving forward. So what I'm advising employers to do is when you send this offer out, you need to make it officially. So be it via text or email or even a letter in the mail. You send a copy of that communication to the EDD immediately, almost simultaneously, so that the employee will get cut off of benefits and come back to work.
Okay, got it. So head them off at the pass. Make sure that, I mean, we're kind of firm believers anyways from good documentation, yes?
Well, yes, and I don't want it to come across as callous. So let me give you a little bit of an explanation. So the maximum amount of unemployment benefits that an employee in the state of California can collect is $450 a week. So through one of the first stimulus packages, the federal government incentivized that by $600 additional a week. So theoretically, an employee could claim $1,000 or collect $1,050 a week on unemployment. What
Wow.
gives them incentive to come back to work?
I'm in the wrong business. I decided to be a Zoom MC and I should have been unemployed. Disappointing.
Trust me, I've almost quit.
Wait, hold on. This is a bad Zoom call now. Well, thanks so much, Candace. What do you think, Tiffany, as far as being able to get your employees back on track?
Well, one thing that I guess could be seen as maybe a silver lining in the getting back to work is the decision that was made on a federal level by the USCIS to relax the employer requirements for documents that you have to verify both the employee's identity and their employment authorization. So when you're filling out an I-9, you have to physically hold the document. You have to inspect the document to verify that it is, or it appears to be valid. Now, this has never happened before, but because employers, a lot of them are maybe going to be going back and working remotely, employers are now able to not physically hold that document, but to receive the documents from the employee via email, fax, or through video chat such as we're doing now. So that is something that is very different, but that's something that employers will temporarily be able to do. It's not going to be a permanent thing. And when we come back and are back in business in a physical sense, and all of the restrictions are lifted officially, and at that point we will know that we need to review those documents physically. So that 3-day period will still be there, but for now you can actually look at those documents not physically if you're working remotely because of COVID-19. So
got it. All right. So ever changing as far as documentation goes, and the EDD and some processes that we should utilize to make sure that our employees actually come back to work. So James, what are you seeing on the safety side of the house as far as some of the safety issues that are coming up? Is OSHA doing anything? What's going on the safety side?
Yeah, well, from an OSHA standpoint, they're relaxing a lot of regulations, or at least the enforcement of those kind of regulations. It's even been issued as an enforcement guide out of OSHA itself. And really what happens is they look at employers and kind of determine whether or not they're really addressing this situation from a safety standpoint. So there are various types of regulations that could apply, such as respirator protection, aerosolized transmissible diseases, that kind of stuff. So they're leaving it up to the field personnel to determine whether or not the employers made at least an effort to try to protect people as much as possible, and what would be really, is it really successful with that? Having said that, what that has really kind of morphed into for us is a lot of people have been asking about COVID response plans. And, Mike, yes, I know you introduced him, and he's more of our industrial hygienist kind of person on staff that we have. And Mike's been doing an awful lot of these. Mike and I have both been following this whole pandemic and kind of thinking forward with regard to what are the protections, what needs to be done. So businesses are coming to us saying, look, we need this to either get back to work. We need this to be able to get on a job site. We need this to be able to show to the counties that we're ready to go. And we have to show proof that we're doing it. And can you help guide us on this?
And one thing also that I would probably add too, employees are requesting this, and in some cases kind of demanding this, because especially for essential workers, they're the ones who are cleared to continue working, and they're the ones who are typically interacting with the public at their place of employment. And sometimes, not all the times, the public isn't wearing a mask, or ultimately the employees don't feel as if they're being protected, or their employer is doing what they want or what they need to protect them. So a lot of it comes from employee demand as well, which is kind of interesting. But with regard to the response plans, ultimately it still comes down to following the CDC recommendations and the recommendations of the World Health Organization, the National Institute of Health, and they do change regularly, daily at times, when new information is updated. And it takes a little bit of knowledge of what the business is doing as how to implement those recommendations at a place of business. Even though, the social distancing, the personal protective equipment, those are all pretty standard controls. Well, how do you implement that at a facility with 14 different buildings, 2,500 employees, employees working shoulder to shoulder along an assembly line?
Mike, I hate to cut you off, but can you actually can an employer mandate that the mask be utilized as a safety precaution?
If the employer sets that as the internal policy, that's a business decision. Absolutely. A condition of employment.
Do you guys see anything wrong with a employer designating that a employee or anybody that they're serving do masks? I know Costco just did this.
Absolutely. Costco, yeah, I saw pictures of the lines going out the door, spacing. Those are all excellent controls. And I have seen Ralph's and other supermarkets as an example follow in suit. But again, not every employer is adopting all of those controls, but they absolutely could.
And if I might add in too, Steve, what this really does help with is not just employee safety, it also helps with your customer safety. And what you're ending up with here is building confidence that when they come to your place to do business, interact, do whatever it is, that they at least have a less possibility of being exposed to this virus and contracting it. So, and the other thing too, like Mike is saying, where you've got companies that are definitely shoulder to shoulder or anything like that in the way they work, we have to come up with innovative solutions within the guidelines in which the CDC has put out. So that has been some of the work we've been doing moving forward. It seems to be building in desire. That's a very good thing to see that there's so many companies that want to protect not only their employees, but also their customers and coming up with innovative solutions.
All right, so I'm going to go back around to everybody, and I just wanted one sentence, maybe two. What is the number one thing that you think employers should do to prepare for going back to business as normal?
So I just want to add one thing really quickly about the masks and the requirement to wear them. Employers need to be aware that if you are requiring your employees to wear them, it's personal protective equipment, which is a safety item and must be provided by the employer.
Got it.
First and foremost. But can I ask a question real quick of Mike or James?
Yeah, fire.
So one of the issues that I've heard employers having problems with regarding the wearing of masks, it revolved actually, the first time I heard about it was in a restaurant. And they're preparing meals for takeout or delivery. And they're wearing these masks in the kitchen. And ultimately, you better be making sure that they're taking their rest breaks. They need to be able to get out of that environment. Heat illness was my first concern, that they're, having not enough circulation, or the heat gets too high in that environment. Is that something that you have seen as a concern?
I know I've been requested that, that this could present other safety issues. And in fairness here, if you follow the OSHA guide, you really do have to do an evaluation of the jobs. And when you do that, you'll figure out which ones have the greatest exposure to the virus or not. However, it will also lead you the direction of any additional issues that may come up. So I've had that as a request as to whether or not this is something we need to be concerned with and how do we address it. And Mike, other things that you've seen with that, or have you come across that as well with some of the clients we've been working with?
So far, no, surprisingly. Heat illness, it's been mainly indoor work, in proximity of swamp coolers or air conditioning. So as far as a cook or a kitchen, that definitely would be an increased risk. But just like James said, I mean, it would involve a full risk assessment of not only the potential for transmission of the virus that causes COVID-19, but also other risk factors, other physical factors in the work environment, including potential heat illness. And if you could not have a mask on in a certain situation, well, you have to step back and look at objectively look at other ways or other controls that you could implement to try to address some of that risk. So, and there are alternatives as well.
Got it. So Candace, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you guys.
Awesome. So what's your one takeaway? 1-2 sentences as far as how employers start to transition back the other way?
Be patient.
Be patient. I like it. All right, James, what do you got?
Oh, I have to echo what Candace says. Be patient, but take the right precautions. It builds confidence. It gets your business back quicker because people feel comfortable.
Awesome. Love it. Tiff?
I would just say that if you have a question, then lean on the resources that are available to you, such as Pacific Employers or Boretti Inc. in terms of your safety questions. We don't have all the answers, but we will do our darndest to figure out the answers to the questions that you have. So,
Mike?
Again, echoing what everyone is kind of saying, definitely it's not going to be 100% all of a sudden. You have to start slow and prepare for that, but you have to also have a plan in place to anticipate what changes you're going to make to the process or the procedures in your work at your job, whatever it may be, as the employee population continues to grow, as more people are permitted to go back to work. You need to have, because what works for 5 or 10 employees in a certain work area may not work when that goes back to normal, to the 50, 60, 70%, 100% full employee population that you would anticipate. So you need to plan for those changes over time.
Good. Awesome. I'm going to leave on this. While I might not be as expert as everyone else on this panel, I think that building your network and utilizing your network, whether that's specific employers or Boretti Inc. or whoever else you might use, start leaning on people and other resources. I mean, everybody on this panel is constantly either in California state law or safety law, or they're constantly being knowledgeable in whatever department they specialize in, and lean on those people to help you rebuild. And stay safe out there, wear your masks, and do what you're told. So anyways, be patient with one another and love everybody, and have a great day, guys.